What if I told you one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL draft wasn't just passed over? He was played, not by his coaches, not by his competition, but by the man everyone thought was his mentor, Tom Brady. Yeah, that Tom. Brady. 7 rings. The golden boy of football. The one who took Shedeur Sanders under his wing, who trained him, advised him, spoke to him like a brother in arms. Now imagine that same man allegedly moving behind the scenes with NFL execs, whispering in boardrooms, nudging decisions. And suddenly, Shedeur, once predicted to be a first-round lock, free falls all the way to pick 144. But that was just the beginning, because what followed wasn't just a slide down the draft board, it was a calculated takedown, one rooted in fear, power, and a last-ditch effort to protect a crumbling legacy. This story isn't just about football, it's about betrayal at the highest level, a silent war of influence, and a warning to every athlete daring to rise too fast, too loud, and too unapologetically black. Let's unpack what really happened to Shedeur Sanders and why the entire NFL world might never look the same again. For months, fans, scouts, and analysts had Shedeur Sanders locked in as a surefire first-round pick. The kid had it all. Precision throws, poise under pressure, a swagger that didn't just speak, it commanded. Even as Colorado's season wobbled, Shedeur's stock remained strong. Some experts dropped him to the second round, maybe late first, but nobody, absolutely nobody, had him falling past the third. And yet draft night came, and nothing. No call, no picks, no camera panning to a celebration, just silence. Hours passed. Teams made their choices. Quarterback after quarterback heard their name. But for Shedeur, crickets. Then finally, in round 5, pick 144, the Cleveland Browns called his name. Not with fireworks, not with buzz, just a mention, quiet, almost reluctant. And just to twist the knife, someone actually prank called him before the real pick, pretending to be a GM. That's right. While the world watched in anticipation, someone thought it'd be funny to fake out the kid on what should have been the biggest moment of his life. Fans were confused, analysts were stunned, and online, theories exploded. Something didn't feel right. This wasn't just a player sliding down the board. This felt orchestrated, like someone, somewhere, made sure Shedeur would fall. Here's where things turn from confusing to straight up cold. Before the draft, Shedeur had a major ace in his corner, Tom Brady, the GOAT himself, not just praising him, but training with him, giving pointers, mentoring. The image was clear, the old legend passing the torch to the new, until it wasn't. Rumors started flying. Allegedly, Brady wasn't just helping Shedeur, he was talking to execs, team owners, giving quiet advice. And that advice might have been, pass. Think about that. You train with someone, trust them, open up, only to find out they might have been shaping the very system that shut you out. Even Skip Bayless, Mr. Brady hype machine himself, raised an eyebrow. He went online and said, how could Brady's teams pass on Shedeur again and again? That tweet hit like a thunderclap. If Skip's questioning Brady, you know the streets are burning. People started saying maybe that training session wasn't mentorship, it was recon. That Tom wasn't building Shedeur up, he was measuring him, and then, possibly, helping block his shine to keep his own legacy untouchable. It's ruthless, it's chilling, and it might not be fiction. But if you think it's just about Shedeur's skills, think again. This story runs deeper. It's not just about a quarterback, it's about who raised him. Shedeur Sanders, Coach Prime, a force of nature in cleats and sunglasses. He didn't just send his son to the league, he kicked down doors, loud, confident, unfiltered. And some folks in the NFL, they weren't having it. Insiders started whispering that execs were afraid that if they drafted Shedeur, they'd also be drafting Shedur's influence, his energy, his voice in the locker room. Imagine you're a head coach clinging to job security. The last thing you want is Shedeur Sanders walking through your door, turning heads, winning fans, and, worst of all, getting results. Because if that happens, the clock starts ticking, not on your quarterback, but on your job. So what do? You pass. Not because Shedeur can't throw, but because his last name might be louder than your own. That's not paranoia. That's politics. And in the NFL, politics move faster than footballs. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get uglier, they did. Behind closed doors, something more personal started brewing. Word leaked that multiple teams weren't just skeptical of Shedeur's game, they questioned his attitude. He's too confident. Comes off as a diva, not the kind of guy who commands a locker room. Let's be honest, if he played any other position, it might have slid. But as a quarterback? Nah, The NFL wants clean-cut, humble, a camera-friendly face who says all the right things. And Shedeur? He doesn't play that game. He's bold, blunt, unapologetic, just like his dad. So now teams were whispering that he rubbed them the wrong way, that he didn't pass the personality test, not because he was disrespectful, but because he didn't shrink. Meanwhile, other QBs with lesser stats and less confidence, guys like Jalen Milroe and Cam Ward, got the benefit of the doubt because they smiled nice, because they played the game. Shedeur didn't. And suddenly it wasn't about football anymore. It was about image, about optics, about control. Here's where it all starts to feel intentional. Back in 2018, Shedeur Sanders tweeted something bold. He said, and I quote, "I love what the Browns have done this offseason, but if I'm a young quarterback, ain't no way I'm going to Cleveland." He even pulled the Eli Manning card, said if it were him, he'd refuse to play. That wasn't shade. That was a nuclear-level warning shot. Fast forward to 2025. Shedeur Sanders ends up where? Cleveland? Coincidence? Or chess move? Because remember, Brady and the NFL front offices knew that tweet. It wasn't buried. It floated around for years. Cleveland fans knew it too, and they didn't forget. So when Shedeur gets picked by the Browns, it didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a trap, like they picked him just to throw him into the fire, to watch him struggle, to watch him drown, and to remind Shedeur Sanders what happens when you speak too loudly against the system. The fans, they were already hostile, not toward Shedeur, but toward his bloodline. That's not a clean slate. That's a target on your back. The Browns didn't just draft Shedeur. They also picked up Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon, third rounder. Add in Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and Deshaun Watson's injury, leaving a vacuum. And suddenly, you've got 5 quarterbacks on the same roster. 5. What are we even doing? This isn't a QB room. This is a Hunger Games arena. And here's the wildest theory floating online. Shedeur wasn't brought in to compete. He was brought in to fail. The whispers say the Browns will throw him out there with no protection, let him take hits, get booed, get blamed, and break. Meanwhile, Coach Prime watches it all unfold, helpless, humiliated, and shut out. That's not football. That's sabotage. Because if they wanted him to succeed, they wouldn't stack the deck against him. They wouldn't flood the field with 4 other QBs. They wouldn't hand him the job, only to strip it away. This isn't about winning. It's about proving a point. If there was any doubt this was personal, Dr. Umar erased it. He stepped into the conversation swinging, calling this entire draft day fallout a calculated takedown rooted in race. According to him, NFL owners, execs, and even Commissioner Roger Goodell allegedly aligned on one mission: to humiliate Shedeur Sanders. Why? Because he's black. Because he's bold. Because he didn't come up through their system. And because his father, Shedeur Sanders, is everything the establishment fears: loud, independent, disruptive. Umar says this wasn't just a missed pick. It was an organized punishment, a message to every future black QB or coach who dares to speak too loudly or challenge too much. To be clear, not everyone agrees with that take, but when you stack the silence, the slide, the sabotage, it's hard to pretend this was just bad luck. Sometimes, a conspiracy stops looking like a theory and starts looking like a blueprint. Eventually, Tom Brady had to say something. According to sources close to him, Tom told friends that blaming him was ridiculous, that Skip Bayless was an idiot for even suggesting it. They say Brady has no power in the Raiders draft room, that he's just an advisor, that Mark Davis and Pete Carroll make the real calls. Sounds clean, right? Maybe even believable. But here's the thing. Brady isn't just some retired player. He's an owner now, a stakeholder, a brand, a force in NFL rooms. So when you say he only gives advice, that advice matters a lot, especially in back rooms, especially when reputations are on the line. So even if he didn't say, "Don't draft Shedeur," all it takes is a quiet nod in the right direction, and doors start closing. Perception is power. And right now, the perception is ugly, because for all of Brady's denials, the shadows around him haven't cleared. When you zoom out, this story was never just about one draft pick. It was about fear, control, legacy, and gatekeeping. A young black quarterback armed with skill, swagger, and a legendary last name set up to be silenced. A father who speaks too loudly. A system that doesn't like being questioned. And a game played behind closed doors by men in suits who still believe they run the narrative. Shedeur might have been drafted, but make no mistake, this wasn't a win. This was a warning to every athlete who dares to shine too brightly without playing by the rules. So now it's on you. Was Shedeur Sanders really just a 5th-round talent? Or was he drafted into a game where the scoreboard was rigged from the start?